Hello everybody, my name is Christian Quick, and welcome back to another video. So today we are going to be making, not a tool this time, we're going to be making a bone bow. And with our newfoundly bow, it is going to be considered, bone bow, and it's a bow item. And they don't have a tool material, so we don't need any of this actually until we get to that new, because it is going to take the fabric item settings, and we're going to do dot max max damage, and then let's say this. So this would be durability, I believe. So how do we how do we make a bow? Um, we're going to have to make something in our util package. And first, let's bring up the model predicate provider registry. And in here, you can see that there is a ton. There should be a ton of things in here. So here we got our crossbow, compass. Yeah, I saw a compass somewhere. I lost it. There it is. Compass, recovery compass, your elytra, your fishing rod. This is everything that changes while you're holding it. Tooting. um, while you're holding it. So if I just simply look up Control F, and I'm gonna look up SHI shield, or not shield, bow, and then we're gonna go down until you see a bow item. Here it is, and it's got two registers, so we're gonna have to copy this. Control C, and then we're gonna basically need this model predicate provider. So let's make in our thing. Let's call it a new Java class, and let's call it a model predicate provider. And then in here, we can create the method by doing private static void. And then let's say we want to register new bow. And then in here, we can have an item and then our bow. And then let's make some curly brackets, and this is where we want to paste all that fancy code. So here, this is where we are going to have to call, if we just kind of space it out, fabric model, the registry, and then it would be dot, and then if I just backspace it here, you got your register, and then let's copy this, and then we're going to put it here too. Boom, just like that. And suddenly it says, well, look at that. Everything is basically fine. This needs to be imported, and then your bow should be good. It's not being registered, so actually first let's do mod items, and then our bone bow. And here we're gonna notice something. This isn't being used, and this isn't being used. This isn't being used, and it's not being returned. So it almost seems like we have done something wrong. Hold on. Mod items, and then we gotta call it the bone bow. But the thing is, the returns, this return specifically isn't being used, and that's a problem. So what do we exactly do about it? So normally, you would just go into your thing here, and you would call the thing, and then you would say the register, but like how we did like our register mod blocks, how we just have it's got its void and register, but it's not recognizing the class. And that's because we have it as private. So if we call this public and then call it in here, register new bow, and then it's going to say item bow, and then you could probably put it in and stuff like this, but I would say that there's a slightly better way to do this so that you don't have anything in here. Because on your uninitialize, I would recommend having nothing in them. So if this comes up, then you're probably best to change the method a little bit. So to fix this, let's have a thing at the top, and then let's call this one public, and let's keep this one back at private the way it was. And public static void, and then here we can do register mod models, And then we can put in here that we want to register the new bow. And then here, let's call the mod items dot bone bow. And then here, let's just write bow. And you can see now this is being used, and we'll do it again down here, where we'll call this bow, and now that is all fine. Since a return isn't being used and we have a lambda expression, I believe if I hover over, it'll say replace with the lambda expression, and then there we go. So it's pretty long, so we can just take the using item, just kind of enter it. That's probably too far. Let's go from null, stack it here. That's everything we need for this method here. And the other thing is that this needs to be registered. So now we can go back into here and we can do what we were trying to do before, the predicate provider dot register models, and it doesn't want anything in here, so that is pretty good. You could have it so that you can call the items in here. I would just not recommend doing that, but do as you will or as you please. And the bow itself, let's open up the files I like to do. So let's look up everything to do with the bow for a moment. Just a regular Minecraft bow. And in here, there is a ton of things, probably because it's also mixing with bowl. But these ones are your recipes, I just know that. But here we have our one of our bows. So we're going to need this, and you're going to call this in your models, because we're making new models in your items. And let's just copy this in here, and then here we're going to call it bone bow. Here it's going to ask for your textures, your layer 0, and here you can call it specifically HMH2 item, and then here we'll call it bone bow. And then here you have all your stuff in here. And for these models, you're going to have to call all of them. HMH3. Did I call that one too? I did. Get out of here. Alright, and then let's just copy this, just paste it here. And then another thing is you want your bone in front of all of them. So we're going to put the bone in front of all of them. And now we're going to have to add these models. So let's go into our project. We have our item for our models, and now we are going to need to add all of them. So let's do your pulling 0, and then just put the bone in the front of it. There's the bone bow pulling 0, and then it's got your textures. So this would be your bone, and then HMH3. And then we're going to need to do it again with the other ones. So we got pulling 1, bone bow pulling 1, bone bowl, HMH3, and then this one, bone bow, HMH3. All right. So now, let's take a look at what we did. So we have the bone bow. This is the very basic item. And so this is saying that the textures is going to come from whatever we make the bone bow. And so that's pretty basic. This is basically any item that we normally have, but it's going to display and rotate, scale, and it's just going to keep moving the item as we do this, and then we're going to override predicate. This is where stuff gets fancy. So I think this is talking about, so pulling goes from 0 to 1 and doesn't necessarily stop. So it's going to start with basically 0, and then as you pull, it gets to 65. You keep pulling, it's going to change the texture to 0.9, and then once it hits that 1.0, you'll be at a fully charged bow, I believe is what it's called. And we don't have to change any of these. we're just noticing that basically there is a tick delay as it's pulling, and that was what was called in our provider. So it's basically saying, pulling, and then it's talking about time use left, and this is for your ticks. Um, this is some stuff that I would have a hard time explaining what it's doing, but you have a base texture. After a random number of ticks, it's going to start increasing that number from 0, and once it hits 65, it'll turn into the texture. Once it hits 9, it'll turn into that last texture. So that's that. All we have to do from here is just add the items, and that's not too bad. Not too bad at all. Um, or I think I said add the items. I meant the textures. We will have to add the items as well. This is not the official editing note. I just wanted to show that I simply was dragging and dropping all of the textures from one thing into the next, so that I could show you what the animation looks like, and then we'll actually get to the texturing right after that. Here we can see the very subtle animation as we start to pull on the bow. I'm just going to quickly just kind of try and change through the frames without hitting any of the X's. But this is the animation style that we are basically making. And with that comes the real editor's note, the one after the previous one. So it is I, your editor, which is still me. You're still stuck with me. This wasn't really too hard of a texture. I ended up missing a pixel, and we'll fix it at the very end. But, yeah, this is a very, not too complex because it's 2D. I'm telling you, 3D gets me every time. It just needs a special, like, model, and, I can physically make the shield work. It just is the broken texture, which if you don't know, it's like this magenta and black checkerboard, and it's like you're holding that, or there's this other one where it's like just gone. It's like disappeared. But it works. It functions. It just doesn't look like it just doesn't look right, and that's the part where I think what's frustrating with that is usually I have the opposite issue where like I can easily make a texture of something. I can make it look wonderful, but then I can't make it do what I want it to do. But this is just the opposite, and I think that's what makes it so frustrating is that it functions, it works. The only problem literally is just the fact that I just can't get a proper texture for it. But with that, I mean, still, even if you guys have this, this is the last item material that we're basically doing. We're just gonna get onto the armors in the next two videos. One of them is just based on armor, and then the other one is obviously armors with effects because everything that I love has to deal with like effects, magic, status. It's my live in my life. Wait till we get to custom effects. That's gonna be in the advanced final chapter. So when you see it, you'll know that the series is getting close to an end. You already know it's gonna be close to. It's gonna be like the 40 to 50 video range. But anyways, um, that's enough of my ramble for this video. So let's hop back into it. Alright, and then I was supposed to do this first, but I didn't. Let's add all the unique stuff to it. So let's go for bone bow, data gen, model provider, control D, bone bow. This shouldn't affect the model because it's just talking about the basic state. It needs a lang file here, bone bow, bone bow. Alright, and then we're gonna need to, let's make a crafting. So let's go in our crafting, and then we all know how to make a regular bow, right? I'd hope so. So we have our 3 string in a straight line. I see people all the time try and put it in the sticks position. And then we're gonna use some bones. Real genuine bones. I don't think bones are stretchy at all, but I don't know. Maybe maybe the skeletons in this game are made of rubber. All right, now that we're in our thing, so we can call it bow.json. Control V, change our thing to HMH3, bow, and then we need to put in our advancement, the amethyst sword. I don't really care. Bow. It's fine to use this because it's still two items. It would be either the Minecraft bone, and then S string. So if you get one of those two, you'll unlock the recipe. Bone, bow, and then this one, bone, bow. All right. So that should be everything. So let's see if it works. All right, here we are in our beautiful Minecraft world, and we can put out bone bow, and we can use it. And you can see how in the inventory how it changes. So as long as I'm not pointing anything, I'll be generating arrows. But you can see in my hand, it has those three stages and how it just launches. It can also do the same thing in the hotbar, which I think is why this can get a little complicated at times. It seems that as soon as I click on it, it seems that I forgot a pixel on one of the animations. So we can fix that. A second thing, I was wrong. So do not put this in your generator. I tried to do this, and then I tried to run the data gen, and then it told me that there was an exception because of this clamped thing. So I had learned don't put it in the thing. But beyond that, we could easily fix that one pixel. Which one? It was this one. I'm assuming that is a dark pixel, so we can just fix that one, and then we can just file, export as, and then since we still have it in here, export, and then we can just really quickly file, texture, and then we're just going to override it by just throwing it in there. It's going to say, hey, there's already one in here. I know about it. Oh, I put it in the wrong place. Let's grab the one I got in here, put it in the actual textures, because that's where you're supposed to put it. There it is. Overwrite. Yes. And then there it is. So now it's complete. But with that, I know this has been a long enough video, but I just, man, something about the provider model, the registry. So where we got all this stuff. Now I've only tried to use a bow and the shield, and for whatever reason this one looks like it would be easier, but I think it's because of how like the shield is not just in your hand. It is like this folded texture. So I just can't get it. But when I do get it, that'll probably be a future video, but I'm still working on it. The complexity is the fact that when it's blocking, I mean, it's not the fact that it's blocking. I got the blocking part down. It's literally just pulling the model because it's not even changing. I just don't know how to make it display. It's really frustrating. But beyond that, I could probably try some of the other ones. I could probably get the crossbow to work because it's not a 3D texture that I'm aware of. I can probably make most of these work because I think that is literally the only like 3D specially modeled texture. Um, but beyond that, that is going to be all for this video. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and without further ado,